My favorite joke is one that goes forever.
Welcome to VFX and Chill. Today is a day that we are making John Wick fall down infinite stairs. I say that we should get right into this.
The inspiration for this was obviously the John Wick stairs scene, which we haven't seen John Wick 4, is my favorite scene from any John Wick film. You know, spoiler alert, he fights his way up these stairs and then is promptly kicked right back down them, and we get this long drawn out there's one shot, but then it gets broken up here, and I don't know if Hashi, when we were doing prep for the show, if you saw this far into it. The guy comes back down, they fight a bit,
comes back down to,
and then throws him down more stairs. And the second I saw this in the theater with my son, he turns to me and he was like, "You and Hashi are gonna do this, aren't you?"
There's no better feeling than when your children understand your humor.
100%. One of my favorite things in the whole world is someone in a movie, like an extended falling down a hill or stairs sequence. The first one that comes to mind for me is from Black Sheep. And by the way, we're going to watch each of these in their entirety until
We should call this episode The Fall Guys.
Wow, we should call this episode Fall Guys and confuse the algorithm.
And then use Michael Douglas as the thumbnail somehow.
We should change the falling down poster to say the Fall Guy. Say even put Ryan Gosling's name above the top, but it's still Michael Douglas on the poster. The other one that comes to mind is obviously the hot rod sequence. It starts as a dance sequence and then quickly becomes
Oh my goodness.
I think the greatest thing about this scene is the way he is catapulted into every shot.
Look at that. He doesn't even touch the ground in that pan.
It's just keeps starting over with him in the air.
This feels so remarkably like something that we would have figured out how to create with soft body dynamics.
But this was done entirely with hard body dynamics. Real body dynamics.
Real body dynamics. Man.
So perfect.
So clearly a shout out to stunned people is what...
Sure. I mean, as stunned people risk their lives for their own shout out. Now, I also I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the scene in Swordfish in which Hugh Jackman, on the run from Don Cheadle and another guy, determines the only way out of this situation is for me to jump off this cliff and roll down this hill for 5 minutes. And the best part is Don Cheadle's response is, well, we have to jump too. Legs broken. Now, this scene is amazing. The music is 99% of this sequence. This Bernard Herrmann-esque, I think is what you called it. And by the way, the only version that I could find online is the version where somebody extended it and looped it, and the loop hasn't even started yet. This is still the sequence as cut.
This is still the uncut original edit of this.
Still no edit yet. Still going. Now the edit begins. So, I love it to death.
Man, remember when we were children and you could just like in The Princess Bride, just like launch yourself down a grass hill and just go for it?
Weirdly, I didn't pull this clip. I'm kind of ashamed that I remembered this one. I think I've said on the show that my dream short film that I've never gotten to make is one in which an old man wearing like the Dick Van Dyke Old Man Band setup is falling down a long flight of like Tibetan temple stairs on the side of a mountain. And it goes for about 15 minutes. My favorite joke is one that goes forever. And the best example of this, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. This movie is so funny, has so many funny running jokes in it.
my God.
You don't even need looping on this one. It's just... I love it so much. There's this one from The Lost World. People may not remember how long it goes. Okay. The other one that I can think of, famous falling people scenes. Here's one that we all are aware of.
Well, yes, cinematic dilation of time.
I would be remiss if we also didn't mention one of the most famous falling scenes from Mac and Me.
From Mac and Me.
And every Paul Rudd appearance on Conan O'Brien.
This is a great transfer of it.
Yeah, it's from the Shout Factory.
Man, someone tell us any of the heck out of that.
I need to make a Mac and Me drop where he pops up in the foreground.
Was this in the era that perhaps I got this VHS from McDonald's?
I believe that McDonald's, I know they had a sponsorship deal with it because they are in the movie at a birthday party at McDonald's where even the people working there are like getting down to the song that is black. It's like, imagine if you walked into a McDonald's and a birthday party was going on. They were playing loud music over some stereo. And even the people working there were doing like a dance with their thumbs. And you were like, I just want a Big Mac, please. Can we, this is overstimulating. Why do I have to be at this birthday party? That was at Mac and Me. In Mac and Me.
Seth, I think that it would be cool if we could do this in a more seamless way.
I think so too.
The cool thing about that John Wick's shot is that from
John Wick's? Are you thinking it's like
John
he
Wick's.
Can make websites really easily for you?
It's John Wick's and then Wickiest.
The Wicker Man.
John Wickerman. So let's create some loops out of video. I want to loop this shot, but I want to loop it seamlessly.
So how are we going to do this?
I was totally going to create a list of sorts so we could talk about some techniques and try to organize this better for knowledge purposes.
Knowledge.
But so if you wanted to make eameless video loops, what kind of operation is this?
Freaking hate eames.
Wait. But very classic way. And there were some really great examples by like Zach King, Kevin Perry, where you have sort of the static shot where you're doing some kind of an invisible cut. And a lot of those are either based on some kind of a wipe, whether it's a digital or foreground object style wipe. Kind of like in the movie Rope is my favorite example of the very blatant like foreground wipe kind of thing, which if you don't know is an Alfred Hitchcock film that is meant to appear as one unbroken take. You can also have your character like enter and exit frame. So like if you walk in from the right, you can then walk out to the other side of the screen as you're walking back in or something like that.
True. That
can be kind of fun. You could do a morph or something like that to do something more difficult.
Morph.
Morph. And then also if you have a moving camera, you could do something like a swish pan where it swishes back to the beginning of the take or something like that. And it's often quite easy to hide a cut in the swish pan. Or you can do something really cool like in Back to the Future where you have a motion control rig. Or actually, for the purposes of loops, a better example is probably the Come Into My World video, Michelle Gondry, Kylie Minogue video.
Yeah.
If you don't know this video, what are you doing here? And welcome. Even if you've not seen this video in a long time, it's still quite a feat. What this is it's a music video for the somewhat looping and repetitive song Come Into My World. And the way that they've structured the music video is they've set up a ginormous track for a motion control camera that basically goes around basically a full block, kind of at this angle. And they film, I think 4 loops of this?
Looks like it.
And one Kylie stays sort of in the foreground and follows that camera to create, like getting progressively closer to the camera as she's further into the song. So the closer she is, the longer she's been in frame. And the farther back they are, it's amazing. They're all multiplying. So there are, like, look at this kind of coordination right there. Insanity.
I neglected to like study this one on my Michel Gondry DVD set that every film student my age had with the Spike Jonze one.
I was curious to try to create an example yesterday, so I did shoot a little example of something.
It can be much more challenging to create a seamless loop out of video when your camera is moving like this, or even handheld, because,
good advice.
As you can see, it can be much more challenging to create a seamless loop out of video when your camera is moving like this, or even handheld, because, as you can see, it can be much more challenging to create a seamless loop out of video when your camera is moving like this,
I don't remember how
handheld,
you did this.
Because, as you can see...
So here's a TikTok-style one where you have the... I'll call it TikTok because I think they invented the weird speech pattern where you end your sentence with, and that's how you...
Yeah.
Creating it, and you know.
So I was going to ask, is your seam actually not on the beginning of the video? Because I know that's a big trick. People expect to see the loop where the video started and ended, but you put the seam elsewhere in order to make it seamless.
But it's elsewhere, so you're like, watch it, because you focus in on that part. Unfortunately, my loop is at a super predictable part, but I am proud of how it turned out. So, should we get to creating things?
What do we want to create?
I think that I might do a fun example, like recreating one of the famous loops that exist out there on the interwebs from this video, which is a rap battle. Probably by now you all know what is coming. I think it is.
Good idea. I've never even seen the original version of this.
I tracked it down because I was like, what is that clip from? Here it is. So right around here, it will feel familiar. That one kid walks through and happens to set us up perfectly for a loop right here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to identify the spot that I want to be the section that is revealed as the wipe finishes right here. So I'm going to set my start point somewhere around there, which is probably this part of the video. And then I'm going to end my video immediately after foreground kid has cleared it. So something like this. Let's see. You could almost do this edit in something like Premiere even.
I love that you are doing a loop that is already a famous loop.
It's already a famous loop. So effectively, you've seen the GIF, and it works a little bit like this. But what they're doing is the lovely trick of using the foreground actor to transition back to the beginning of it. So what's really fun about when you use a subject to effectively function as a linear wipe, here's a really crude cutout like that. So the first frame that the wipe starts is right around here. So I'm going to put a little marker on my footage right there. I'm just pressing the star key on the number pad. And it looks actually like the transition is almost as long as the whole section that I chose. So if I duplicate this and just drag this piece of footage out like this, what should happen is as the guy wipes right there, it's wiping to the video again. And then if you layer up your little loop kind of like this in your editing program of choice, all you've got to do is know that this frame where the little marker is the same in all of them. So I could just set my beginning and end to the marker like that, and I can press play on this. And we've done it. We've recreated this moment. I think I've truncated it a bit. I think the GIF has longer celebration beforehand. So we might be able to employ something similar on John Wick, but I feel like it's going to take some more tricks.
Are we both afraid to take it on?
Well, we have several options that all sound fun. We have infinitely falling Paul Rudd wheelchair, Mac and Me.
True.
We have.
I kind of want to try Die Hard, specifically
Die Hard. Okay.
well, specifically because there's a couple versions. There's there's like this where I could extend this version and make it just, somehow make him keep falling for a long time. But I actually want to loop this one.
Oh, that's a great one.
So
what a perfect building design to loop.
I know, right? So I might try that for now. I'm really curious how you're going to do John Wick, to be honest.
All right. So I think that there was a moment where the henchman gets a little bit lost as the camera tilts down right there. So the stairs do have some natural breakup at these platforms where there are recognizable patterns. And so one thing you could, in theory, do is, you make some kind of an environment thing, just like we did with the rap battle video. And you can add keyframes to this kind of section. Grab these mask points, transform them. Really, a good way would be to 3D track and just make a little roto thing around this section. But here you go. The idea would be you can take a section like this that wipes on, where the whole new scene comes on like that. Then, in theory, you could duplicate that little segment of it and do what we did earlier, where you have the old clip and you offset it by a bit. So there's one that is already filled in at the point when the new bit of stairs sweeps in, and you just keep on doing that. But yeah, you can see that even this kind of works. And what I'm going to do is going to be sort of a version of this. But I believe that there's going to be some section where I need to roto out Keanu Reeves so we can create a looping, rolling Keanu Reeves. But I want to use as much of the real sections where he's contacting the stairs and you can see the shadow and everything. I should say John Wick. There we go. And I'm being respectful to the performer here. And what have you got going on over there?
I'm trying to figure out how to make this building infinitely scroll, but I just realized I can't tile it before Kingpin and I can't tile it after. So I'm trying to figure out, I need a way to tile it between the from pins and the 2 pins.
You see, with something like that, like the camera's so zoomed in, I'm wondering if you don't just create a graphic element that can be scrolled.
Well, I was trying to do that, but with perspective. But what you're talking about.
How much? How much?
It's just literally
perspective we talking.
Stitch them like this, right?
Yes.
You're a madman. Okay.
Because I do think that camera angle is close enough to isometric that you could do it.
You're nuts.
Like literally, you could isolate 2 or 3 stories together in that little diagonal shape.
Okay. I'm gonna try this.
Cut out.
Only because you've proven time and time again that your dumb ideas work.
Well, cut it out as if it were. Cut it out in the diagonal shape. Use the bottom.
Cut it out like this.
Boom.
But without roto. Okay. Oh, cut it out like it was the. Oh, I see.
Yes, there we go.
I hate this. It's gonna work.
Do I want to create just an infinite looking staircase that looks like it's really just similar to your amazing thumbnail for this week? I'm kind of looking at John Wick specifically and the relative distance between the camera and John Wick.
Aren't we all?
And trying to figure out if somewhere around here there's a way that I can. It may need to all be simulated. I feel like I could create an in perspective loop as long as the translation time was from one post, making it from its current location.
Hey,
up to.
have you ever had one of those moments where you're so caught up in your thoughts, so focused on one thing that you forget about the world and people around you? Well, that's happening to my friend Hashi right now.
Then I can start to stitch together the stairs and this.
It can be difficult to watch.
What I haven't done.
That's why I've brought my time machine to help take us to a future episode where they've actually got this stupid shit figured out. And don't worry, I'll bring you back to this episode afterward. All right.
I became obsessed over the weekend and did it. I don't know.
He did. I'd like to show everybody the clip, because of copyright law.
We got to be careful.
We have to be careful.
Probably that sound will identify it right away as what movie it comes from. So is there anything you can do over there on that end?
Yeah, I can try something. Here, let's try this. Hashi, tell me what exactly we just saw and how we saw it.
Well, I took all of the frames and fed them into if you're on a PC, the free software called 3DF Zephyr, and I got this thing right here. As you can see.
Oh, that's the stairs. Look at that.
Look at that. I fed it 50 frames from the start. That's what you can get with the free version, is photogrammetry out of 50 frames.
Did you have to paint out Wick?
What's kind of amazing about if you're feeding something like this to a photogrammetry file or a program is that it looks for consistencies between photographs. The thing that it did not find consistent was the rolling human in the middle, which means that when it rebuilt the model, there's no human present.
That's nuts.
Isn't that kind of cool? So, like, from afar, this is pretty cool. Like, you can definitely tell this is that staircase. But what's kind of funny is that there'd be moments right here. You can sort of see, like, John Wick's shadow and these crazy, like, chasms that would just happen because the lighting was too bright in those areas, and so it didn't know what to do with it. And so I ended up with this thing that was not quite usable, but it was so informative. And so I was able to grab some pieces of this, rearrange them into this new piece where I grabbed some elements of each bit and then tried to generate some new textures. This was an instance where both 3D plane stamp in After Effects was helpful to extract big flat surfaces from the texture, and then Photoshop's generative fill was great at doing things like, I only have this little bit of the sidewalk, but I need a whole card of it. And so it would just fill in the rest of the card. So I could add flat planes like this one, and obviously, let's see, where's the other plane? This plane right here, where I was able to feed it an out-of-focus picture. And I actually used Jason Murphy's awesome plugin in Photoshop, where you could take the blurry image of this and say, use a diffusion model on it and say it's a sharp photograph. And it gave me this, which is pretty cool. I also deleted some of the worst geometry, like the railings and things, and replaced them with these little models of railings and the lamppost and trees and stuff. I'm over-explaining this again. Why am I explaining so much so early?
It's important that you do. You're not over-explaining anything. This is incredibly cool.
After all of that craziness, I was able to generate this little bit. The very, very Panic Room David Fincher-esque is what I feel like.
Yeah, it really is.
So you'll see one of the things that I did in here is there's that henchman who's running down the stairs. And so I added a camera tilt up to reveal him just for that little bit, and then the camera would pan down. And I over-rendered this because the actual shot is more like ratio is this, 2:3:5. And so it would occasionally pan down to Wick on the stairs and then back up to show the henchman catching up with him. And I could use that one little card of footage just over and over again. Just whenever the camera panned up, you would see him still running down the stairs, and then the camera would pan down to Wick and then back up. I was able to find a pretty good, reasonably loopable, but also enough variety Rotobrush 3 version of John Wick rolling. And the way we combined those was very simple. I just dragged let's see, let me find an example frame. Here we go. So there you go. Put rolling Wick in front of these rolling stairs, and you start to get a kind of a cool effect. But what really brought it home was then, for all of these, I would sort of place it approximately how he would fall down the stairs with some consideration to what direction he was rolling. And then I would just dive in here and say, he's missing a shadow. So I would go and add in RGVFX shadow. I would put it on the blend mode behind mode, so it could be like that. And then you can just quickly, soften and do whatever to make this kind of a contact shadow like that. And the fun thing about shadow is that you could use multiple instances of it. So I made one primary shadow that was sort of, I sampled from one of these like darker shadowy colors like that. And then I did a second shadow that was a lot tighter to the body, kind of like this. So it was more of a contact shadow kind of thing. And then I animated them to kind of do this.
Michael Powlick says that shadow is actually really selling it when he passes the lamp.
Why, thank you. So yeah, so you just can easily go like this and say keyframe these points. So as he's coming down, like the lamp is, casting a shadow that way. And then as he gets closer to the lamp, the shadow directions should be more like this. And the center of the body is more here. And then there are all sorts of things like this feature right here, the displacement map. You can look at the source footage behind it and then say horizontally displace it based on the footage behind. And so your shadow will have some texture detail from the footage. So if I started to scroll through here and I put the shadow like this direction, you can see that it'll become this like textured thing right here. Oh yeah, there we go. If we project it down onto the stairs, you can see it gets broken up over the actual little cracks in the sidewalk and stuff. It's very, very cool. And
yeah, it's really new. And
do whatever.
And you've got similar controls in the reflection tool as well.
They're like cousins, I think. Shadow and reflection. I got to use the reflection tool a bunch this week also. The reflection tool looks like this. Watch. Reflection. See, it's like a shadow. So we could pretend it was raining out here.
It's totally like a wet
there we
staircase.
Go. Look at this wet staircase.
You can blur it. You can smear it.
And I also made a longer version of the video, which is posted to social, which had to transition from my Wick roll into the actual clip. And it worked pretty well. I was surprised because I'd only eyeballed the camera movement.
Oh, yeah, that was a pretty seamless little transition considering you eyeballed it. I didn't even watch it long enough to see that it ended. I just saw the beginning where you transitioned from the...
Look at that. There we go.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it's nuts that
I just saw where
it actually, even his long version still loops.
Yeah, this concludes the Hashi talk about the whole stuff.
All right, my friends. It's time for me to get you back. And hey, remember this. Time is a magical thing. Sometimes the future you will have solutions for problems that you're having right now. And if the past has taught you anything, it's that you should have faith in future you. All right. Now, live long and be excellent to each other. Bless.
By the way, while you're looking at our screen, I haven't cleaned up any of the masks at all, so it's really, whatever. But that's the tile.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Oh, that's great.
That looks looped to me.
Oh yeah, that's pretty clean. Man, you've completed a whole shot, and I've just
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Figured out where I was about to begin.
I'm about to. I have to roto Hans now. I've got a loop on the building, but now I've got to get a good section of Hans falling, and it's going to be hard to roto him because he goes up against these black windows so much. I don't think he's gonna. But I want that motion of his. I wonder if I can puppet tool this like an idiot.
Puppets are amazingly convincing things. I have always believed that the Muppets were real, and I can't.
I mean, are they puppets or are they real?
Maybe it's both. Maybe both is happening at the same time.
Totally agree, Forrest.
I always forget the second half of the quote is still in there too.
It's a long pause. Like it really grinds the show to a halt to use that drop. You can't see my screen, but I'm in Photoshop now. I sent it over to Photoshop as a reference frame, and I'm cutting out Hans there. I'll save it, and it'll already be in my timeline in After Effects, and I'll try puppeting that.
Once again, the reference frame tool just being exceptionally useful.
Okay, so now my reference frame is saved as this little Hans tree frog. So now, puppet pinning John Wick. as I am known to do. Well, here's my falling Hans. So now, if I put the building behind him, oh, I'm sorry, in close, like punched in, this looks incredibly stupid. But
that's perfect.
In a wide, it's holding up.
That's great. Look at that.
All right, just got to do the legs.
Okay, let's see how our Wick roll. Oh man, Wick roll.
Where you click on a link and you think that it's going to be something else, but then John Wick punches you in the face.
No, it's obviously going to be the video that we've made of John Wick infinitely rolling.
That's true. That would be incredible to get Wick rolled like that.
Exactly. So you can send people a link and it'll be to our infinite John Wick rolling down the stairs. So that's our future plan. It was our plan all along.
It was our plan all along. Okay, Michael Pollack brought up a Wick roll, but with clanging one-man band sounds as the music. So we're combining my dream with this. I do like the idea of boom, boom, like it's just a guy, an old man screaming as he's rolling down a hill with the music kind of that's happening, the calamity that's happening, the cacophony from rolling down the hill with the one-man band is kind of just getting enough of the Rick, not Rick Rubin, Rick Rubin? No.
Rick Rubin, Rick Scott, and Gavin Newsom, is who we were trying to make sure to cover on this show today.
Hey, look at this.
Look at that.
That's all right. It's not bad.
Wait, how did you loop those particles? Are they literally moving up and out of frame? Yes. So you can just use that trick?
All the blue layers here are my particular layers, so they are meticulously looped.
Well done.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it.
I'm just going to add a little bit of camera shake. Just got to figure out how to loop it because the original had some shaky shake to it. So,
Seth, it's beautiful. Die hard, go home.
Well, that's what the next one could have been called.
Okay, let's go ahead and play this simulation and see what happens.
He ends up just scooting because the thing is. You got to give that thing some like turbulence or something.
Oh, yes, we do. Simulate forces turbulent. Here, that's all we need. Now we've got it. Oh no. Sorry.
I want to revisit this.
Oh, gosh. Next week on VFX and Chill, we knock a one-man band down the stairs, believably. You will believe a man.
You will believe a man can fall down the stairs.
Oh, geez. We'll have to figure this out. More on this when we return next week.
You can keep working just a little bit. I have one thing I want to do before we go.
Perfect.
Let's see how this worked out.
Well, I hope that's not a hostage.
Oh my God. Flawless.
Oh, we did it.
Wow, we did it. Well, thank you everybody for coming to our super successful looping videos episode. Tune in next week where we're going to play with the new Cinema 4D, and hopefully you will believe a man can fall down the stairs.
That's the marketing tagline from Maxon officially for the new release. We'll see you later, everybody. We love you. Bye.
You're still here? Go. It's over. Go home. You're still here? Go. It's over. Go home. You're still here? Go.